Welcome to the Exploring Neurodiversity podcast for adults who support neurodivergent children. I'm Adina from Play, Learn, Chat. I'm an autistic ADHD speech therapist, professional educator, speaker. This podcast is recorded on the Aboriginal lands of the Gadigal and Bidjigal people.
Hello, Steph.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Thank you so much for coming on the Exploring Neurodiversity podcast today, which is not your first time on the podcast.
No, I'm back. A little while though.
A big while. Let me introduce the fabulous Steph. Steph Robertson is a multiply neurodivergent OT. She is a speaker, the founder of SGR Occupational Therapy, a self-confessed fair dinkum weirdo, and I know that you say that of yourself with love, and I agree on that. 50 years lived experience and spirituality to depathologize what it means to be human. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Now, Steph is going to be one of the presenters at the Neurodiversity Affirming Unconference, which from the day we're recording is in 27 days, I think. Steph is presenting a session on day 2 titled Autistic Joy. And what we thought we'd do today is give a bit of a flavor for everyone listening of why this is even an important topic, what it means, why is it wonderful to think about and talk about joy. Let's kick off with talking about special interest. If we're talking joy, we've got to go into what makes each of us feel so uniquely joyful, happy, passionate. Tell us about yours. You can info dump, you can demonstrate.
Interestingly and so nerdishly, autistically, one of my absolute special interests is neurodiversity and the neurodiversity paradigm and depathologizing what it means to be human and really analyzing, who gets to decide the parameters of what is normal and what is expected of us. And like, that's something that always lights me up whenever I get into these conversations with people and I get to start nerding out and questioning, and even questioning what I thought I knew, like I love it. I love being made to feel a little bit uncomfortable too, where it's like someone challenges, oh, okay, I thought this sort of made sense, but when you put it that way, and I love that Sunny Wise is speaking at this conference too, because Sunny's been one of my biggest kind of prompters in that way. So there's definitely that element, but that sounds very cliche. So other things outside of what I do all day that I love is anything to do with animals and nature. And I mean all animals. Like I love bugs. I love deep water creatures. I love all the scary ones. I grew up with pet snakes and lizards and rats. And there isn't an animal that I have encountered in my life that I wasn't like, you are cool in some way, shape, or form. So, and nature. I love identifying types of trees and plants and being in nature. Anything to do with running water, waterfalls, rivers, all those things just glimmer me right up straight away when I'm around them. So they're probably my main ones.
I just felt more calm hearing you talk about that and joyful. So thank you. And it's such a beautiful thing when one of your special interests is also your work. Well, it's probably not a big coincidence, but it's a really lovely thing. And it's why you are such a fabulous person to connect with and learn from. I'm so excited about what I'm building with the wonderful folks, including you, who are just going to be helping us all get to that possibly challenging, absolutely delightful space of questioning what we learned and wondering whether what we've learned as professionals who support neurodivergent folks, but also as humans living in a neuronormative society, we get to question everything. Joyful to feel like there's another way of thinking and existing.
Yeah, 100%.
So tell us your version of what autistic joy means to you in your life, but also in your practice as an OT.
Yeah, so in my life, for me, it's something that really takes over my whole body when I'm experiencing that joy. I find that I have a lot of energy. I sort of end up in this heightened state. Repetitive movements will often come in a lot, like tapping or flapping or bouncing will often be something that I do. Making sounds. My voice gets really, really loud when I'm experiencing joy as well, which I'm often told about from others. It's a whole body experience that is really And, I love nerding out about autistic joy and the intersection with monotropism. But for me, it really feels like that. It's like this flow tunnel that's fully immersive, like a sensory experience as well. And it just feels really good. Like I come out of it feeling way better. I'm like, oh, it just felt like a little pick me up, because I experienced this thing that brought me joy. And I think we've known for so long as humans that that's got to be good for us, right? Like, but now the research tells us that it is too. And I think that's what's really exciting and why I bring it so much in and make it a priority in a lot of my work is that not only is it enjoyable for myself, the human I'm working with, but it's genuinely good for them as well.
It's not just a nice to have, like, it has value on many levels.
100%.
The way you were describing that reminded me of feelings I had more in my childhood and less in adulthood. And I need to spend some time learning from you and experiencing and thinking through this. That whole body joy. I think any human can feel joy to some degree and feel it not just in emotion, but in visceral body feelings.
Yeah.
And what I understand is that as autistic folks, we have really, really weird sensory systems.
Mm-hmm.
And that can lead to a heck of a lot of challenge, which is it's what's so often talked about and experienced.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that is that I'm seeing it as the flip side. I don't know if this is correct by what you know and experience and teach as well. But the flip side, I think, is that we can potentially feel the positive sensations, whether it's a kind of emotional nugget, whether it's from a stimming on something that's like so soft and like it can be so heightened in a really positive way as well.
Yes.
Did that track?
Yes, I think so. And I think this is where we need to start embracing the experience of autistic joy, which can, in a lot of cases, appear, I often hear people say like childish, or adults feeling that they can't jump for joy or they can't flap or stim or bounce or squeal because of, neuronormative expectations that adults don't do that, which is just custard. But I think we need to realize, like you say, that this is something that we do get to also experience in a heightened way. And so let's make the most of it, right? Like joy, like you say, is beneficial for everyone. But I do believe that there is this beautiful extra that we have as autistic folk. And, autism is so often spoken about in deficit narratives. And this is something where we can go, this is something that gets to be a little something special for us,
Maybe it can counteract some of the hard stuff.
Yeah.
Why does it matter? Why does joy even matter as a legitimate goal when you're thinking about supporting kids in a neurodivergent affirming way? Not just about the regulation and coping, but why should we bother talking about it? Is it even important, Steph?
Yes, so important. For those who like to go on the nerdy rabbit hole, I will provide references that people can look into more at the conference. At the unconference, I should say. So if people want to go and read the studies and stuff to find out why this is so important, they can. But to summarize it, research is now showing us that for autistic people and for supporting autistic people to flourish, when we center joy, right, in therapy and the interventions that we're providing for people, this leads to better regulation, stronger sense of identity, which is a really important protective factor. Reduced masking behaviors, which then leads to reduced occurrences of burnout, improved connection with neurokin, increased learning capacity. So we're actually, by centering joy, we're giving people a leg up in terms of skill acquisition, if that's something we're going towards. We get enhanced mental health overall and generally. We have increased sense of agency and autonomy. It gives therapy is strengths-based reframing, which is what we're going for in a neurodiversity affirming lens anyway. And then we know now that the more that we support people, autistic people, to experience joy, it actually improves well-being across the lifespan. So it's a no-brainer. It's almost like I would almost position it as one of the easiest ways that as a therapist or someone supporting an autistic person, you can be ticking so many boxes in terms of benefit by simply encouraging and facilitating that person to experience joy. And I just think that in itself is so beautiful.
It sounds like it's not a nice to have little, like what a nice idea to talk about this and support kids to find their joy. it's a core essential part of the support and that identity building as well.
Yeah, 100%. It is like, in these research studies, there are quotes like, autistic joy is essential for autistic flourishing. And I love that.
Thank you for bringing joy to us today and always, and at the Unconference workshop. Can you give us a little taste test? What is something that we could try, listeners, maybe even you and I now, what can listeners try? Something that they might experience at the Unconference workshop. What can we do to find our joy?
Yeah. So, I won't give away some of the experiential activities that we are going to do in the workshop because that's going to be really exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. But one thing that I encourage people to do often, and especially adults, because I think sometimes we lose touch with our joy, is to make yourself a little joy menu and ask yourself questions. And if you can think of things straight away that bring you joy, that's grouse. Like if you can be like, I love being in nature, I love whatever, build your menu. If you need a little bit more of a prompt, I often find that it's helpful to think about even just reflecting back on the last week and asking yourself, what's something that made me smile, or what made me curious, or what made me lose track of time is another one. So we're getting into that flow state, or what sensory experiences feel good, or do I tend to seek out? Or even just, what made my shoulders sort of soften, what made me laugh, that kind of thing can help you then piece together what that joy menu might look like. It's kind of like doing a little joy scan.
That's a lovely collection of prompts. What I might do is actually pop them into the show notes so that people can come back to and do that little reflective practice. And not funny. I use the word reflective, and you might have noticed, Steph, I just looked that way for a moment because as you were talking, I noticed there is a reflection from a shiny thing that is reflecting on the ceiling, and it's this beautiful bluish, yellowish, orangish, big stripe on the ceiling. I'm going to send you a picture later. I'll probably put it on Instagram.
Yes.
Had we not been having this discussion, I don't think I would have taken that moment to actually notice it. And I'm such a visual stimmy person that thank you for letting me remember that brings me joy and that's valid to focus on.
And look, I could nerd out on this topic too for ages, but our brain actually filters out a lot of information from our environment because otherwise we'd be too overwhelmed. And the way we build those filters from childhood is based on what we are encouraged to draw our attention to, right? It's where we build our values from and all those things. A lot of us were raised, we have to get good grades at school and that's what's important, and be productive and earn lots of money. And, this is how we build our filters. But we can recondition that. You can actually rebuild your filter to find joy. Create a joy filter, right? Go on a joy treasure hunt for the day and encourage yourself to start looking for it. And that's when you'll start noticing it more. And then that's when you'll be able to get more benefits from it.
What a lovely idea. And I imagine just the activity of putting together a joy menu that you are filtering because that's what you're focusing on.
Yep.
Cool. I've got some homework to do. Some joy seeking homework.
I love that so much. How good.
Amazing. So then let's think, if we're going to lead people on a journey, that's adults, I presume our listeners are mostly adults. How does reconnecting with your own joy as an adult actually change what that does for how you support the kids in your life, whether you're a teacher, an educator, a therapist, a parent, or a mix of those identities? What's the point in us adults experiencing joy?
Based on some of those points I mentioned before about what does it build for us, right? If you think about some of the things I mentioned, like better regulation, improved capacity for connection, stronger identity, all those things, and capacity for learning, if we're in that place, that allows us to then better connect with children. And also if our joy filter is enacted, if it's on, we can start seeing how children are experiencing their joy and picking that up in those sort of more subtle moments. And that's something that we'll look at as well in the workshop is, how do we identify where the joy is that might not be as obvious from the outside perspective so that we can encourage that and hone in on it more. And I also think too, like anything, when you experience it yourself and you experience the benefits, it makes it much easier to then advocate for it, to then share it with someone else, to prioritize it for someone else because you've seen and felt why it's important. And I think, that's one of the fundamental things as well. If we can recognize what it feels like, embody it as well, that's going to help us, encourage it and facilitate it for someone else.
That's so multi-pronged, but it makes so much sense. All of it makes complete sense. There's no harm in spending time thinking about joy, and there's a lot of benefit to be gained.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key thing for any people who, like so many of us, especially if you are a professional working in this space, we have been conditioned that we must have evidence-based practice. What's the point? A lot of us receive those questions in pediatric practice, but aren't you just playing? What's the point of what you're doing? What's the outcome measure? There's a lot of pressure on us as professionals working in this space. And I think what's beautiful about the research coming out now, and what I hope to share with people in this workshop, is that all the evidence you need to answer all those questions is there now. And your play and your engagement with children, the laughter, the joy seeking, it is all evidence-based now. It is backed, right? So you can do those things that feel good with your interactions with children and know that you are achieving so many wonderful things and helping facilitate their development.
I love it. I love it. I am so delighted that you're going to be sharing this in much more depth and with a lot of reflective and interactive pieces during the Neurodiversity Affirming Unconference. So for anyone who is already registered, awesome, we love you. And for anyone who is thinking about registering, I think it'd be lovely to get a bit of an idea what they can expect of your session. Obviously, don't spill all the tea. We're going to keep a little element of surprise. So for anyone who's joining us live in August on day 2 of the Unconference, what can they expect?
So we will come together and do a little bit of joy seeking together. So we will be looking at some things that bring you joy individually. I'll be walking you through some activities to help channel that. We will be doing some group sharing, and there'll be options for sharing through comments or sharing spoken stuff. We will have an activity that we will do kind of like a little case study, maybe do some breakout rooms. So we'll be exploring your joy, how you experience joy, and then how we then pass that on to the work that we're doing with the children that we work with. And then ending on a reflection of what our next steps can be moving forward, what we can change about how we're practicing, or even just thinking about one little person that we're supporting and coming up with kind of like a mini little plan of how you can go forward with something actionable.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I can't wait to host this. I can't wait to share this with others, and I can't wait to learn more from you, Steph. Thank you so much for sharing today and for sharing in that space there. If anyone wants to get in touch with Steph, go and check. All the links are going to be in the show notes. Plus, I'll put some of those prompts for how you can find your own joy menu. The link in the show notes will be there for the Neurodiversity Unconference, which is in August 2026, 19th and 20th. It's all online. It is going to be incredible. We have 19, I think it's 18 guests plus me, 19 incredible folks, all neurodivergent, lived experience, diverse folks from around the world, all different intersections. Some people you might have heard of, many people you may not have. And that's part of what I'm trying to do, is just share more voices and perspectives with the world. And you can hear I'm pretty stoked about it. There are also recording only tickets available for folks who can't swing the time frame or the live. But I mean, the live experience is going to be brilliant, but day 1 recordings are available. The workshops and experiences day 2, no, they're not recorded. And that is so that everyone there live feels kind of safe, knowing it's not going further. It's just there. It's that safe space to share and participate as you like. Is there anything we've missed or any exciting thing you want to share, Steph, before we say see you in August, everyone?
I don't think so. I think I love that you mentioned about it not being recorded, because this is one of the beautiful things. I know Adina shares this view that I share, which is that community wisdom is so deep and wonderful. I believe that a lot of the best learning comes from being able to share collectively, being able to brainstorm, being able to bring an element of maybe it's your personal story or your experience to the learning, and not just being sort of dictated to by one person who, has some knowledge, right? So I think the beauty of this space being created where it's safe and private is that we can share examples or ideas or situations. And I am going to leave some time at the end of the Joy Workshop session for questions. So if anyone does want to ask a specific question about a situation or whatever, they can. And that's all safe and not going outside of the space. I think there's going to be some really gorgeous gems that come out of it. And yeah, hopefully those listening will join us.
I can't wait. Thank you so much, Steph.
No worries.
Thank you. Bye. This unconference is about people. It's about connections. It's about listening to stories. It's about feeling in your body, that feeling when you get the kind of support that your body and mind needs. Day one is mostly listening. It's a mix of individual speakers and 2 incredible panels, one about supporting trans and non-binary youth and one about families. So we've got a panel of neurodivergent parents who support neurodivergent kids, sharing what is important for them. How do they like to be supported by the professionals in their world? Every session is going to be incredible. I am absolutely knee-wigglingly excited. So that's day one, and day one is recorded. So day one recordings are available for 3 months. Day 2 is the unconference. It is not recorded, and that is very, very deliberate. That is for connecting, sharing, experiencing. Day 2, you got to come live to experience it. A big part of the reason it's not recorded is to protect safety, the confidentiality, and for attendees to feel safe that, anyone literally in that Zoom room that's who's going to be listening and experiencing what they have to share. There is singing, there is drawing, there is feeling joy. There's a fabulous session I cannot wait for with Christina Schmidt, whose session, The House We Were Trained In, is going to help us reflect and possibly dismantle some of the beliefs and biases and practices that we were built into as professionals. We've got Kelsey McOld, the occupational therapist, sharing on power and play, which is really about behavior, the different ways of considering compliance. We've got sessions on sensory supports. We've got Sunny Jane Wise kicking off the whole thing with a talk I cannot wait for, Difference or Disorder, helping us set the scene for rethinking. Every session is going to be, oh my gosh, incredible. We've got a gathering of voices with Alison Davies where we're going to feel and sing and connect. And you know what? You don't have to sing. I'm not going to force you to. Nobody's going to force you to. It's all an invitation. But, being there and joining in the way that is right for every individual attendee is going to be, that's the way to go. And I can't wait. Bring it on. And the final session is so beautifully named. All credit to Chennai Mupotsa Russell, the Sticker Chart Industrial Complex, Beyond Compliance and Towards Belonging. She's an art therapist. It's going to be interactive. It's going to be colourful. It's just, wow. Let's go. Let's do this. I hope you're going to join. Go and check the Neurodiversity Affirming Unconference. Link is in the show notes. Also, go to neurodiversityunconference.com.
Thank you for being open to learning and unlearning and to listening to the perspectives and experiences of neurodivergent folks. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend, share a screenshot on Instagram, pop a 5-star rating and a review in your favourite app, and join me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm at play.learn.chat. Have a beautiful day.